The season is starting in just a couple of days, and pretty soon all these predictions will be just silly things we said before the games began. But that's not going to stop us from doing another Locked On crossover. This is your pal Sully with your new pal Millard Thomas. Let's get the show on the road. Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to the Locked On MLB crossover with Locked On Diamondbacks. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. You can call me Sully. The other host is right over there. That's Millard Thomas. You can call him Sully. And that's the new policy here in the Locked On Podcast Network. We're all called Sully. We are all landing that plane because the goose got in the engine. Hey, you can follow us at Locked On MLB Pod, same handle for Instagram. You can follow me. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Hey, Millard Thomas, where can people follow you?
Hey, it's Sully Thomas, actually, at Creator Thomas 24 for my personal account, or just look up Locked On Diamondbacks on both Twitter and Instagram for the podcast handle.
And thanks so much for making us your first listen, as we're available for free in all your podcasting catchers. Hey, the other day we did our predictions for the
American that was a long
League.
Time ago.
I know. We decided to wear the same things today. And your beard has not grown an inch, and that's interesting. But fact of the matter is, I was very cowardly in my predictions. I predicted the Toronto Blue Jays were going to win the American League pennant, but I was also put my neck on the line because I said both the Red Sox and the Yankees were missing the playoffs altogether, and Minnesota was going to take that final wild card spot, joining Houston and Tampa Bay as the wild card teams. My division winners were also the White Sox and Seattle. But we talked a great deal the other day about the fact that the American League is parity filled. You could have a wide array of teams that have a legitimate shot of making the postseason, which brings us to the National League, which is not the case. Not the case. There's only one division where I think each of the teams have at least an outside chance of making the postseason, but you have you have at least two divisions where there are haves and have-nots. And by that, I mean have a shot and have no chance.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to expect us to really break down the Pirates or the Reds or the Rockies, for that matter, you're listening to the wrong podcast today. I will mention the Rockies because they did have an interesting postseason, but we're really breaking down the big-time contenders here. So, Millard, we're just going to start with the NL West, which is the home of your Arizona Diamondbacks. How many games are you picking the Diamondbacks to win the division, and will they win 110?
Yeah, I think they're winning 115 this year in the World Series. Well, that's not going to happen, but I love the shots that you take at Paul Holden of Locked On Rockies because he's convinced that the Rockies are going to finish with a better record than the D-backs. Crazy. He's delusional, just like the Rockies owner, Dick Monfort, who says their team is ready to win the World Series. All Rockies fans are crazy because the D-backs are going to win around 70 games this season and finish fourth in the NL West. That is my hot take prediction because I look at the NL West. The Dodgers, they had a good offseason because they, of course, got Craig Kimbrell. I thought that was a huge move for them because before that move, I was like, they might have actually lost more talent than what they brought in with Corey Seager and Max Scherzer leaving. But getting Craig Kimbrell was a huge addition to that team. The Padres, all of a sudden, big offseason winners with a last-minute deal to get Sean Manaea right before the start of the season, adding Luke Voigt. They still got to get Eric Hosmer off that team because now you have all those rumors floating around and the almost trade that went down. Hosmer's not going to be a happy camper, so you probably got to move him. And then the Giants should be competitive once again. Brought in Alex Cobb, Carlos Rondon. They did lose Gosman. They did lose Chris Bryant, and they lost the heartbeat of their team in Buster Posey. But I still think they're going to be a good team once again. They're like the Tampa Bay Rays. They're a machine. They just know how to produce good players. So this is going to be the Dodgers division once again to lose with all the talent they have on paper, but watch out for the Padres and Giants to be right there in the mix for one of those wild card spots.
I mean, last year, the Giants became the greatest poster child for how analytics works well in the regular season, because if you looked at the individual parts of that team, that was not a 107 win team.
No, I don't know how they did that.
I mean, the Dodgers won 106 games and had to play a wild card game where it was tied in the ninth.
They had like what 20 more wins than the team they were playing in the wild card
Yeah, it
game.
was ridiculous, and was by the way an absolute demonstrated why I want to just get rid of the divisions. If we're having the playoffs are designed that the two best, there's no way that the two best teams in baseball can play each other for the pennant. There's something wrong with the system for that. But anyway, I digress on that. I don't see the San Francisco Giants winning 107 games again, but I do, and we are going to find. We talked yesterday about we're going to find out what Carlos Correa meant to that Astros team. Well, now we're going to really find out what Buster Posey means to this Giants squad. But that being said, I do think the Giants are a 90-win team. We're going to win 90 some odd games. Rodon is going to be interesting because he was so good the first half of last season, and then was just not really a factor the second half with his injuries when he was playing for Chicago. The pitchers tend to find the fountain of youth in McCovey Cove. It's a great pitcher's ballpark, and I think you see it like what happened to Disclofani last year and with Gosman for that matter. I think the Giants have a lot of depth on that team. They're better than the sum of their parts, and they find ways to scratch out 5 or 6 runs, which is enough to win. I think, and I am going to just early on just say that I think they're going to be one of the wild card teams. I don't see you going from 107 wins to 83. I mean, I don't see them falling so badly, and also there are so few fringe teams in the National League that are even worth mentioning that I think one of those wildcard spots is going to go to San Francisco. Los Angeles is going to win that division.
They have to.
Barring an app, I say that. I mean, last year, the 106 wins is good enough to win any other division. That's an extraordinary year. If you're the defending World Series champs and you go out and you win 106 ball games the next year, that's the best defense of a World Series, I believe, in the history of baseball. And it got them second place. I think losing Scherzer is bad. I thought he was so great from down the stretch. But that trade was so brilliant because it brought in Trey Turner that allowed them to deal with the Corey Seager loss. Adding Freddie Freeman to this lineup gave them the flexibility to trade Pollock. And with that, they were able to build. I had a big thing we talked about Kimbrel the other day that he went on a 5 or 6 year period where he was as great a greatest of all time for that period of time. And then really since the Red Sox World Series win, actually since that postseason, he was terrible in that postseason. And since then, he's had a good half season with the Cubs and was terrible the first 2 years with the Cubs and was horrible with the White Sox. When closers flame out, they don't usually bounce back. But I do think he's worth the flyer to improve their bullpen. I think they gave up on Kenley Jansen at the right time. I mean, again, he's been there for a long time. Lost a bunch of postseason games for him. And, there's a reason they turn to other people to clinch certain postseason series in their history. But that being said, I think they have the rotation, especially if Kershaw can come back in any way, shape, or form. Obviously, Buehler is there. They have all these young pitchers on there. Their lineup with Freeman to back everyone up is unbelievable. I think this is a 100-win team easily. And should be the favorite. In fact, I think when we make our picks, we probably shouldn't be allowed to pick the Dodgers. It has to be anyone. Who do you have going other than the Dodgers?
Conversations about the Dodgers are pretty boring because there's really not much to say about them. They're loaded at every position. There's really not much of a minutia discussion you can have about the Dodgers. Really, the most interesting team to me, probably in the division, is the San Diego Padres because we knew they flamed out in the second half. We've all talked about their collapse. We did our NL West roundtable on Friday. We all gave Javier a lot of crap about the Padres' second half collapse. So they're going to be an interesting team to watch. They brought in your guy, Bob Melvin, to be the new manager of that team. So hopefully he can maximize the talent. I think their rotation is still super talented. A lot of those guys had really down seasons last year, but you still got Snell, you Darvish, Clevenger, Musgrove, and now got Sean Manaea. Like, that is a very talented rotation. That lineup is going to have a lot of talent as well with the Machados. Obviously, Tatis might not be there for what, 3 to 4 months. Javier doesn't even seem too confident that he might come back this season. So that's a very interesting team to keep our eyes on. But you never know. They still got to trade Eric Hosmer, and they still have AJ Preller, who has been super aggressive as a GM. So they can always go out there and make a move and add a bat to their lineup, like the Dodgers, who have so many pieces like a Gavin Lux and Max Muncy that they could always trade if they feel like they need another starter in their rotation as well. So I think the NL West has a lot of teams like the Padres and Dodgers who you have to watch out for at the deadline to be buyers, because they just have pieces that they can move.
Yeah. And by the way, as a Diamondback fan, you may remember the fact that when Bob Melvin was the manager of the D-backs in 2007, they got all the way to the National League Championship Series, and that team had a negative run differential that year and still got him to 90 wins. He got a bunch of no-name teams that were constantly replacing their parts in Oakland to the postseason year in and year out. I think it's very intriguing to see what Melvin can do with a team that's willing to spend money. We live in a world where San Diego is a team where people are willing to spend money, but hey, good for them. Speaking of spending money, the Rockies had a surreal postseason where they opened up the bank and gave one of the richest contracts of the postseason, not to their own Trevor Story, which I could understand, saying, hey, you developed us, you're going to be part of our team, we're going to try to build something eventually and you'll be part of it. But to Chris Bryant, who's on the wrong side of 30 and has already won a World Series, and while is still a talented player, signed way too long a contract. Good for him. Good for Chris Bryant.
Yay.
You know, pay that man. He should have been a Cub for life. And he's like, well, if I'm not a Cub for life, I'm going to take the richest contract I can get my hands on. I have no issue with Chris Bryant. I just don't understand moves when you're not there, why you spend money. And then you have the Diamondbacks.
Hey.
Make us feel good.
I thought you were going to give a whole tangent about the D-backs and what they were doing this offseason.
Make us feel good.
I thought you were having some thoughts. The D-backs, they traded for Jordan Luplow. He's going to miss the start of the season, so that's not a great start. Josh Rojas, he's going to miss the start of the season. Zach Gallen, he's dealing with some shoulder issues. So we're coming into the season not too hot. But, hey, we still added Ian Kennedy. We added Mark the Shark Melanson. The back end of the bullpen is going to be better. Dalton Varsho is going to be an everyday player in center field. Seth Beer is going to get some major playing time at the DH position, hopefully this year. So I think the offense is going to be greatly improved. David Peralta looks like a new man coming out the offseason. His body looks slimmer. He's starting to hit for power, at least in spring training. So hopefully that can carry over. We just gave Merrill Kelly an extension. He looks like he's back to being the 2020 Merrill Kelly. We'll see with Madison Bumgarner. I got no hope for that guy, so I really don't know what to say about him. But overall, I think this team should improve by like 15 to 20 wins, and that sounds crazy, but if the D-backs win an extra 20 games, that's only 72 wins from the 52 that they won last year. So I think they're going to have one of the biggest swings in baseball in terms of adding wins to the previous year's record.
Look at Millard Thomas finding that boost of energy he needed. Hey, I would have thought you had a Built Bar, but no. If I'm not mistaken, you just had yourself some athletic greens. Tell us a little bit about that, or tell us a lot about that.
Yeah, you are right, Sully, because during the offseason, during the MLB offseason, no baseball is on. So I tried to get back into the gym myself. And one of the things that has helped me in the gym lose weight, feel healthier about myself, is athletic greens. So what is this stuff we're talking about? Well, with one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. It helps all of those things. It's lifestyle friendly. Whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, Athletic Greens covers all of those areas. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 five-star reviews. It has tons of multivitamins inside of it, which is very important because you have to choose one with high quality ingredients that your body will actually absorb. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into the flu and cold season. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1 year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/MLB network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/MLB network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
All right. And hey, thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen every day. Locked On MLB Prospects should be your second listen. Actually, Locked On Diamondbacks should be your second listen. But your third listen should be Locked On MLB Prospects. Host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia and is going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Well, we've all had our Athletic Greens, and now it's time to move on to what is, I think, the strangest division. I think the NL West is the most stacked. We're going to talk later about the NL East, which I think has the most parity.
Mm-hmm.
But the NL Central is weird. It's a weird division. As recently as 2021, the Reds were contenders. Remember, they were a playoff team going in August. They were one of the wild card teams in August and early September. And then they fell off the map, and they traded away everything, including Johnny Bench's old uniform, in a massive fire sale that they've had. Okay. The Pirates, whose budget is already negative, the players are already paying. The players have to pay a cover charge to get into the stadium. That's how low their payroll is. And still they're cutting costs. When I hear they're trying to slash their budgets, they're like, you can't slash it lower than zero. Eventually it comes down to zero, which is where the Pirates' payroll is roughly around. And so those two teams are not even fielding a contender. And the Cubs, who were in first place in June, and the first sign of stubbing their toe, basically they threw a no-hitter against Los Angeles in mid-June, were in first place. And from that moment on, they traded everything away and don't really seem to be concerned about putting a contender on the field. So that leaves us, and those three teams are just not worth talking about.
No.
Not worth talking about. They're not trying to contend. They don't want to contend. Bye-bye.
Suzuki?
Okay. Congratulations. One player. Okay. Is that going to make the difference?
No.
Or you think one big hitter is going to make the difference? May I bring you to Anaheim? So,
yeah.
Any discussion of the NL Central is talking about two teams and two teams alone. And that is the St. Louis Cardinals, who were a fringe contender until they went on a 17-game winning streak down the stretch and got to the wild card game and were tied in the ninth inning in the wild card game. Think about how things would have been different in the postseason had the Cardinals tacked on one more run along the way. The manager, Mike Schilt, did such a brilliant job waking the team up and getting him into the postseason that he was rewarded by being fired. And
poor guy.
Yeah, so that guy was like, wait, what? I'm fired? And Manager of the Year 2019, updating his LinkedIn page 2021. Marlo's the new manager. There's some bad news coming out in terms of some of the injuries in camp with the St. Louis Cardinals. The Flaherty has a shoulder injury, which is huge to lose a pitcher like him.
Reyes too, I think.
What?
I think their closer Reyes too.
It was nice they picked up Steven Matz. Obviously, they have Goldschmidt and Arenado still on the team. Obviously, they're still a quality ball club. But, man, it's really hard to not pick the Milwaukee Brewers to repeat as the NL Central champion, if for no other reason. They have the Cy Young Award winner. They have the deepest pitching staff probably in the National League. And they flipped Jackie Bradley Jr. for Hunter Renfroe. So that improves their offense just right there. by taking a player who's obviously a spectacular defensive player and brought in, a fine offensive player. They lost obviously Garcia. They lost Eduardo Escobar. They brought in McCutchen and Renfroe. Okay, nothing huge, but I just think with their pitching staff, what team's going to be better than them?
Yeah, I think describing the Cardinals as a quality ball club is the best way to describe them because look at that rotation. They're kind of relying on Adam Wainwright, a guy who's like 42 years old, to be their best starter. They lost Kim in that rotation. You mentioned Jack Flaherty. He's probably going to be out, I don't know, the first month or two of the season. So their rotation is off to a bad start. I like their lineup a lot. They got some guys who could really hit in that lineup, but overall, I don't think the depth in their pitching staff is good enough. You look at the rest of that division, like you mentioned, not much to talk about. The Pirates are not trying to win games at all. The Reds are moving backwards. They slashed their payroll. They traded everyone. They released players. The Reds are not trying to do anything to help that team or to win games this season. The Cubs, I feel like they're like the Rangers or like the Tigers, where they're trying to add pieces and hopefully in a couple years are ready to contend because they added Marcus Stroman, they added Seiya Suzuki, so it looks like they're at least trying to add pieces to that team to make them kind of interesting. But this has to be the Brewers' division to lose. Their rotation is too damn good with three guys that could win a Cy Young in their career, and Burns, Woodruff, and Freddie Peralta. Even after that, they got some couple good starters.
Lauer's a
in that
decent
rotation.
pitcher.
Yeah.
Hauser's a decent pitcher. I mean, they're not great, but that's your 4 and 5 starters.
No, they're very good. Your bullpen is elite with Devin Williams, Hader. It's just your lineup you need to come through because they have not been able to score enough runs in the postseason. Christian Yelich has not been that guy. We've talked about it on a couple pods now. Christian Yelich has to step up to the plate. He has not been that guy the last couple of seasons. Luis Urias has been pretty good. I like a couple other players in that lineup as well, but overall, the Renfroe addition should help, hit a few more home runs. That was kind of a fleece, I thought, because Jackie Bradley did nothing for you offensively. So at least Renfroe can throw dudes out with his arm and hit you like 30 plus home runs as well. So I think it has to be the Brewers division to lose because I look around the rest of the division. 3 teams are not even trying, and the Cardinals, I just don't think have enough talent.
Let me put it this way. The Cardinals are a pretty good team. They made the postseason last year because they had that amazing 3-week stretch.
Quality ball club.
Quality ball club. There is a chance with a team like that, if they suffer injuries, that they could fall under 500. There is a possibility. I don't think it will happen, but there is a possibility that the Brewers could be the only team above 500 in the division.
Mm-hmm. That wouldn't be surprising to me.
I do think the Cardinals will finish in the low 80s for wins. So I am picking them to have a winning season. A couple of weeks ago, I thought like, hey, I think they're going to win the division. Then I saw some of these injuries piling up, saying, no, it's Milwaukee. So there you go. Hey, I just wanted to say that I think that when you look at the team, that I don't even know which is another contender.
There's
none. I mean, again, all due respect to St. Louis, who might be a fringe contender for one of the wildcard teams, but you will do the math on that in a second. Because I think you're going to have 2 wildcard teams out of the West, and I think you'll probably have one out of the East. So I really think the only chance you have to make the postseason out of the Central is to win the division. And with the Brewers pitching, the Brewers would have to have an epidemic of injuries to miss the playoffs. I think they're just an absolute biggest surefire bet to make the playoffs out of any team in baseball. And if you're going to make any bets, go to BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your #1 source for all your betting needs and sports infos. Find all the latest sports developments, including this week's Masters Championships, odds, podcast reviews for all the different leagues this season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information. Not sure that's grammatically correct, but I'm going to read it anyway, including live betting, esports, and scores. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and actions. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. All right. Millard Thomas of Locked On Diamondbacks. I'm your pal Sully from Locked On MLB. Here we go. The toughest division to talk about in the National League is the National League East. For this reason, I'm going to give you the con here, but when you take a look at the NL East, you have the defending World Series champion Braves.
You do.
Who are going to get back their MVP candidate, and Acuna, they should be better this year than they were last year, the year they won the World Series. The New York Mets spent every dollar in New York to make the team better. The Philadelphia Phillies have said, well, if we're not going to win, let's at least have the most fun team hitting home runs left and right, mainly left. And the Miami Marlins are a team that can pitch. And they have been acquiring a couple of decent hitters. Jorge Soler, your National League most valuable player, or World Series most valuable player, is now a Miami Marlin. They've got a couple of decent hitters on that team, and I think a very good pitching staff. And then you have the Washington Nationals, who, as of right now, look like a shell of their former self, but they have someone who could very well be the MVP of the National League in Juan Soto sitting on their team. And who knows what you can build around when you have all you need is an MVP candidate, and you too. Oh, wait, no, you have the Angels. But at least the Nationals won a World Series a couple of years ago. So you have 4 teams in that division, 3 realistically, but 4 teams that have a shot at the postseason, 2 with a legit shot at the division. What do we make out of this mess?
Yeah, it's tough to say because this division is very muddled. They're kind of like the AL East. I see a lot of parallels because the safest pick feels like the Braves, kind of like the Blue Jays. But you got 3 other teams that are like, if those teams win 90 plus games or at least in the mix for a wild card, you would not be surprised because the Mets went out there. They spent a lot of money this offseason. Scherzer, Starling Martes, Escobar, Canna. They got Chris Bassett. Yeah, Chris Bassett as well. You saw what the Phillies did. They spent money this offseason too. Yes, they said, screw defense. We don't want defense, but they added boppers to that lineup. You can't deny with a Castellanos and a Kyle Schwarber. Those are 20 to 30 plus home runs.
Having Castellanos, Schwarber, and Bryce Harper in the same lineup, I don't know if that's going to be good, but boy, I'm flipping over to those games because there's going to be a bunch of 10 to 8 games being played in Philadelphia this year.
And you still got Reese Hoskins, Alec Baum. They got boppers in that lineup. And don't forget, Aaron Nola hopefully he can bounce back. He had a little bit of a down season last year. But Zach Wheeler, the last 2 years cumulatively, if you added his stats, you can make the argument Wheeler has been the best pitcher in baseball the last 2 years cumulatively. So that is a huge, what do you want to say, Sully?
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Okay, you're agreeing.
The Phillies are the exact team that could wait in the weeds for a Mets or a Braves to collapse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the Phillies can be right there because they were pretty close last year and then they struggled the last couple months of the season. And then your team, the Miami Marlins, like looking at this paper, I thought their lineup wasn't very good, but I went on that projected lineup website by Roto and you look up and down there's a lineup, like it's not too bad when you got Jazz Chisholm, Jesus Sanchez, Jesus Aguilar, and you look at the rotation. We've mentioned they got one of the best rotations in baseball. So they could be one of those teams where they just win a lot of low scoring games. They make it, 4-3 games, 5-4 games, and maybe they're the team to make a wild card spot. So I think I would pick the Braves as the safest pick to win that division. But if you told me the Marlins or the Phillies or the New York Mets were, took 2 of the 3 wild card spots, I would not disagree with you because I think there's a lot of talent in that NL East division.
I love the idea that if a couple of those hitters in Miami have unexpected solid seasons, that they would win a bunch of games because I like their pitching staff. The New York Metropolitans are the biggest pendulum of the National League this year because they are relying on 2 players. Now, yes, they made a bunch of acquisitions, and I like their team as a whole. But it is basically they are saying Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer were betting they're going to BetOnline.net, and they have decided to bet everything on those 2 players. And if Jacob deGrom can give them 25 starts like Jacob deGrom can, and Max Scherzer can give them even 75% of Max Scherzer. He was a Diamondback prospect.
Yeah, I know. It's just don't even bring it up. We don't even gotta go there.
Sorry, no reason to do that. If they can have a good season by their standards, then the Mets are going to win 95 games and probably win the division and may be a team to challenge Los Angeles for the pennant. But we're already seeing the potential cracks. We're already seeing deGrom's going to miss a couple of weeks. Like, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? Well, there's Scherzer's feeling a little sore. What does that mean? What does that mean? Scherzer obviously has been an incredibly durable pitcher over the last bunch of years, but he's not a spring chicken anymore like he was when he was with Arizona. Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher in baseball when healthy. But the when healthy part of it has been the challenge, has it not?
It has.
And it has. I think Lindor is going to have a bounce back season because he's not the player he was there. But I think there is a definite scenario that has the New York Mets winning 95 to 98 games. There's a helicopter flying overhead
that was
here.
loud.
Yeah, I know. It's Radar O'Reilly. But there is a scenario where the Mets win 95 to 97 games and win the World Series. There's a scenario where they win 78 games and have a losing season. And believe me, you laugh at me about the idea of them having a losing season. Who predicted the Padres to have a losing season last year? Or the Mets, for that matter?
Not a lot of
As they were, no. So there's not the gray area for the Mets is gigantic. The potential pendulum is gigantic. I like Atlanta. Obviously, they won the World Series last year. They had a decent year last year. They took advantage of the Mets collapse and the Phillies collapse. Thank you very much. And by the end of the year, their bullpen was astonishing. Now, Jackson's injury takes away some of their depth, but if Acuna can be back and be a shell of his former self, I prefer Freeman to Olsen, but I think Olsen will do a fine job. I like the fact that they still have a solid offense. They still have real good depth in their pitching staff, and they showed their mettle in the postseason. So I think the safe pick is Atlanta to win the East. I think the intriguing pick is the Mets because of what they could be. So you're going to pick the Braves. You know what? I'll stick my neck out. I'll say the Mets.
Okay. And the Mets also have some questions with Carrasco coming back this season. He basically missed the entire year last year. Taijuan Walker is the returning all-star in that rotation, but he was terrible post all-star break for them last season. And also, they got Robinson Cano still in that starting lineup. Can you trust a team with Robinson Cano at second base at this point of his career?
No.
The man is, how much is he getting paid? Like $30 million this season or something crazy, probably like that. It's absolutely wild that they're still paying Robinson Cano. But I would not disagree with any points that you're saying. I think the Mets could. There's two worlds that they could live in where it's like Doctor Strange in the multiverse of madness. But go ahead. What do you want?
Well, I was saying the Mets are trying to work out a deal where they would basically DFA Robinson Cano and have the Angels pay his salary, because the Angels just out of habit love to pay players that they're not playing. Oh, we'll pay his salary. That's what we do. But I think the Mets, they're so, as I said, the pendulum is so wild that I'm just going to pick them just because I'm saying I'm going to show some confidence. I'm going to show some confidence in Showalter, another former Diamondbacks manager. This is a year for former Diamondbacks managers with Melvin and Showalter. And I think that, isn't it weird that Brenly was the one who won with all those quality managers they've had on that team over the year? It was the most incompetent manager who won the World Series for them. That's so bizarre. Anyway, back on track. Showalter is obviously a fine manager who's able to squeeze stuff out of his players. He's put together winning clubs with teams that did not look like winners on paper in the past. And so I trust him more than I've trusted any Met manager in a while. But and I think that they'll find a way to win 92, 93 games. I think the Braves are going to win 92, 93. I think they're going to be neck and neck to the end. I'm just going to say the Mets because why be negative about the Mets? That's the easy thing to do. I'm going to be positive about the Mets and pick the Mets to win the National League East. But by reminiscent of last year between Los Angeles and San Francisco. It'll be completely down to the wire.
Yeah, and with Derek Jeter out as CEO of the Marlins, maybe they'll actually try to keep talent instead of giving it away to the New York Yankees. So that would be a nice change of pace for that team.
All right, let's do it. Let's put our money where our
All
mouths
right.
are. So we both said our okay. Two of the division picks we already know. You would pick the Atlanta.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and pick New York for the East.
And Brewers, no doubt.
And
I
the
feel like.
Brewers are just that's I mean, I would be stunned if it was not Milwaukee out of the Central. And
And
so let's go
Dodgers.
to I guess the Dodgers. So yeah, see,
Yeah,
this is what
it's
we were
really the
saying
wild
that
card.
I guess I picked the Mets because there are three easy picks as division winners. I just wanted to mix it up a little bit because everyone's going to pick the Braves, everyone's going to pick Milwaukee, everyone's going to pick Los Angeles. Let's mix it up and throw the Mets. So then let's pick who your wild card teams are.
Okay, for the wild card, I'll take the Padres as one because I still think they have a ton of talent in that
Me
lineup.
too.
Obviously, we don't know what Tatis, that's huge, but I think their rotation is enough to carry them. I still think they have enough boppers in that lineup. I'll take the New York Mets as a wild card team. I still think Scherzer will be healthy enough. I don't know about Jacob deGrom, but I think at least with Scherzer, Bassett, Carrasco, and Taijuan Walker, you still have enough depth. I still think the lineup is good enough. I discount Cano, but I still think they have 3 to 5 other players in that lineup that I really like. And then I'll go with the Giants just edging out the Philadelphia Phillies. I think the Phillies are going to be really good. I think the Marlins are going to be pretty good as well. I think there's going to be I think it's going to be like the AL wildcard race last year where it's coming down to the final days, whole bunch of 90 win teams all vying for the last spot. Kind of like the NL East last season where it was like the Phillies and the Braves and the Mets all vying for the last spot. So I think it's going to be a very muddled division once again. I think the wild card race is going to be very close with the Phillies, the Marlins, maybe the Marlins a little bit further behind than the Phillies and the Giants, but I think it's going to be a pretty close race in that wild card race.
I think I have the Giants, San Diego, and remember I picked the Mets to win the division. So I have Atlanta being one of the wild card. This is part of the problem when when we did the American League forecast, there was all sorts of combinations you can have.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's really one spot that's up for grabs in the entire National League. I mean, you're going into it knowing, okay, there's going to be 6 teams coming out of the National League. Okay. 4 or 5 are predetermined.
Which league do you think is stronger, though? Who do you think has a stronger league?
I think the American League because you have fewer bad teams. You have some horrible teams in the National League. Horrible teams that are going to pad the win totals of the Braves and the Dodgers and the Giants and everything because they're going to be playing some of these I mean, think of the Brewers if they're when they play games within their division, you have 3 teams in that division who aren't trying. They're just going to cruise. I think that because the American League has fewer terrible teams, I think you only have a couple of terrible teams in the American League. Baltimore's a terrible team.
A's.
The A's, yeah, but every time we declare they're a terrible team, they talk, well, who are these A's? So I mean, I do think the A's are going to have a bad season. So yeah, I'll throw the A's in there right now. And probably I can't even say Kansas City because they're going to have talent on that team. Texas is going to have talent on the team. Detroit has talent on their team. The Angels obviously have at least 2 talented players.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're going to count the rebuilding A's and the perpetually rebuilding Baltimore Orioles, you got 2 bad teams in the American League, and you have 3 bad teams in the National League Central.
Yeah,
so
I mean it's close. I don't like the AL Central that much either with the Guardians, and I mean I don't love.
But they can at least pitch. They can at least pitch. I mean, talk about like the Orioles can't do anything. The Reds won't be able to do anything. There's a couple of teams that won't do anything this year in the National League. So that's just the answer to my question. Hey, let's throw one other thing there. Let's go MVPs. Who's gonna be your MVP in the National League?
Okay, that is one off the top for sure. In the National League, that's a close one. I think I'm gonna have to go with I don't like taking MVPs off bad teams. That's just kind of my philosophy. So
Hmm.
I know Juan Soto is gonna be a pretty hot topic. So it's just tough to say. I know Otani is gonna be in the mix for the American League, but it's tough to say. MVP. I'm just looking at all these teams. Could it be a Dodger? Maybe it's someone off the Brewers roster. Um, you know what? Is it crazy to go back to back with MVPs? I'll go something crazy actually. I'll go something crazy. I'll go something with the D-backs roots and I'll go with Paul Goldschmidt off the St. Louis Cardinals. How about that? How about
That's
that
not
for a
bad.
hot take?
That's not bad. That's not bad. I have the ultimate middle finger free agent signing. I'm going to have Freddie Freeman winning the MVP with the Dodgers.
Okay, okay, okay. That's a fun one. I don't want to see that happen because
No,
it's
I'm
in the
just
NL West, but
and I had picked the other day. I picked Vladdy Jr. to win the MVP out of the AL. The Cy Young Award winner.
oh yeah, and I'll
Who
pick
do you-
Otani for the AL MVP. I think he just has to win it every year if he's healthy and pitching
That's true.
20 starts and playing 140
Hmm.
games in the field. I think he just has to be the MVP.
All right, who you have for your Cy Youngs?
Cy Young, that's also a tough one. I think I'll take someone off the Brewers rotation. I don't care who it is. Peralta, Woodruff, Burns. You could give me anyone. I'll just take a Milwaukee Brewer because I think I'll just take those three over the field in the National League. And then the American League, it's tougher to say because if you looked at it last season, the race was very weird. Like after Garrett Cole, like we know who won it. It was Robbie Ray. So the race is very weird in the American League. It feels like the National League is a lot deeper. I'll actually take Zach Wheeler to win the NL Cy Young. Actually, that
Oh,
just came into
okay.
my head. I said he was the best pitcher of the last 2 years cumulatively. I'll take him to win the National League Cy Young Award, but the American League Cy Young Award, that one is a little tougher to say. I'm looking up and down. You said Jose Barrios. That's a
That's what I
pretty
said. I
good
said
choice.
Barrios, yeah, of
Yeah,
Toronto.
that's a pretty good choice. I think I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go with the man. I really don't even know. I really don't even have a good. I'll go with Garrett Cole this season. I mean, because
Okay.
it's really like the top end talent in the American League, Cy Young pitching. You know what? I actually want to switch it. I want to take it out. You say Cleveland has great pitching. I'm
Yeah.
going with someone who has my middle name of Shane, so I'm going with Shane Bieber of the Cleveland
Oh,
Guardians.
going for a
Boom.
second one. Okay. By the way, my National League Cy Young is Brandon Woodruff. I just think, but I think you're right. It's going to be. It should just say pick a Brewer. I'm going to go
Yeah.
Woodruff this year. I for my American League Rookie of the Year, I had picked Julio Rodriguez of Seattle over Bobby Witt, and who do I have as my National League Rookie of the Year? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my National League Rookie of the Year pick. He played in Reno last year.
Oh.
Alec Thomas of
Hey!
the Arizona Diamondbacks is my pick to win the National League Rookie of the Year. Alec Thomas.
I love it. I love it, Sully. I don't think he's going to be there to start the opening series. I think he's starting the year in the minor leagues, but I think he'll come up very soon, especially if Pavin Smith struggles. They don't have a ton of offensive talent, so I think they might need Alec Thomas, who was smashing it in spring training, minor league player of the year for the D-backs among position players last season. So I think that's a fantastic pick. I would take that pick as well as my NL Rookie of the Year just because I can't think of anyone else who's a rookie in the National League. So I think that's a fantastic pick. But for American League Rookie of the Year, I have a choice because I'm from ASU and I'm taking an ASU grad who has just made the opening day roster and was just given a first baseman glove by one of the all-time first basemen in Miguel Cabrera. So I'm going with Spencer Torkelson to win the American League Rookie of the Year in the American League.
Who do you have as your Manager of the Year?
Oh, Manager of the Year. That's a fun one. I think I'll go with your guy, Bob Melvin of the Padres, just because if they make the postseason this year, they're going to be like, oh my God, it really was Jace Tingler. All we needed was a new manager. So Tingler's for sure going to be the scapegoat if the Padres don't have a collapse and actually make the postseason. So I think the narrative will be pretty easy for Bob Melvin in the National League. And then for the American League, I'm going with Alex Cora because I think once again, you're going to look at the Red Sox. You're going to be like, how did that rotation, how did that bullpen win 90 plus games once again? So I'm going with Alex Cora in the American League.
Okay, I think Melvin, which will be his fourth Manager of the Year with a third different organization.
Oh, okay. That's fun.
I think he's going to win there. And I think you're, oh God, who do we have going on there? I mean, in one sense, you could say it could be Baldelli if the Twins do indeed make the postseason. Obviously Scott Service could get it if the Mariners wound up winning the division.
Mhm.
I'm just going to take the boring pick, which is Kevin Cash, because I just think that he's going to have yet another year where there's going to be a and you know what? I'm going to change it because Kevin Cash has won the manager of the year the last 2 years. They're not going to give him 3 straight years of manager of the
No.
year. So I think I'm going to say Scott Service of the Seattle Mariners.
And your guy Dusty could win it if, the Carlos Correa effect, if you're like, oh, there actually is no effect. Maybe this Dusty is the reason that this team keeps winning 90-plus games every year.
Okay, here, let me ask the brutal question, however.
Okay.
Here is the brutal question. Will a manager be fired this year, and who will it be?
Oh, will a manager be fired this year? Let me look at all the candidates, because if there was to be a manager to be fired, I'm trying to think of like what would be the team that's on like the hottest hot seat. I know like Aaron Boone would probably be the most fun name for this conversation, but I feel like he just got a contract extension. But I feel like Aaron Boone is probably the answer, especially if we both think the New York Yankees is not making the postseason. If this team doesn't get to the postseason, I think it's not only Aaron Boone that's getting fired, it's probably Brian Cashman as well that's getting fired. So I'll go with Boone as the answer to this question.
Okay, I don't know if there's a candidate the only candidate I think would be an outside chance in the American League would be Chris Woodward of the Rangers. He would be a scapegoat of them spending money, saying, "Oh, we're still terrible,"
Mm-hmm.
and they would fire him. I think these would be scapegoat candidates like David Bell. Well, the Reds had a winning season. Now they're terrible, so we better fire the manager. But I'll tell you who I think is my legitimate choice to be fired. Don Mattingly.
Wow.
With the change of with there being a shuffling in the front office, usually a manager will be someone that the folks in the front office want to install themselves. So I think Don Mattingly needs to get the Miami Marlins off to a fast start, and short of that, the front office will probably take a look and want to put in their own guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's an interesting choice. I don't know if the Marlins have the expectations where they would feel like they have to fire their manager if they have a bad season this year. So I don't know if he has to exactly worry about that. I don't know if his seat's that hot
Well,
yet.
let me put it this way. Kim Ng is the general manager,
Mhm.
and she's now in charge of the team. And she very well may want to put her stamp on the team instead of bringing in the manager that she inherited. And so I don't know what was going on in Miami, but there may have been a conflict with Jeter and Kim Ng or whatever it is. But it never surprises me when there is turmoil in the front office that it results in a change in the manager. That's just, and Mattingly has been there for a while. Maybe it's a bit of stagnancy. And I don't know. I'm not besmirching Don Mattingly the way my dad used to when Mattingly was the manager of the Dodgers, and my father kept saying, my dad, the biggest Giants fan on the planet, would always disparage Don Mattingly as a manager. But remember, this will be Mattingly's 7th season with the Marlins. 7.
Wow. Okay, I didn't realize it was that long. So he's been there for a hot minute now.
He's been, yeah. I mean, he's been there. No, he started in 2016. Okay, Obama was president.
They've ripped the roster down though and just torn it to shreds while he's been the manager. So I feel kind of bad for the guy. It's like he just lost talent and all-stars out the door every season.
That's great, but when someone's been there for this is his 7th season, and you have turmoil in the front office, you know what? That's usually when a manager gets changed.
Yeah, I mean, they also haven't made the postseason. They made it in 2020 during the shortened season, and then before that, they haven't made it since they actually won the World Series back in 2003. So it's been a lot of down seasons for the Miami Marlins since that one World Series run, and I don't think they count. I don't think they put too much. I don't think they really feel like the 2020 shortened season postseason run was a fantastic experience.
Although they did win the wild card round, so they did eliminate Chicago. So they did manage to get to the division series. So it wasn't like they were the 2 and out in the wild card, kind of like Cincinnati or Toronto or Milwaukee was. So, but either way, that's just my pick because I just think that's the case, and it's not even a reflection on his ability as a manager.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, hey, we've been talking a while here. Thanks to everyone for listening to us here. Millard Thomas, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, at Creator Thomas 24 for my personal account. Just look up Locked On Diamondbacks both Twitter and Instagram for the podcast handle.
All right, and I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Chatting it up with Millard Thomas and making our predictions for the National League. This has been the Locked On MLB crossover with Millard Thomas and Locked On Diamondbacks. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Let's fist pump this baby. Fist pump this baby.
Boom.